It was a horrifying sight. 6 teenagers bleeding, battling for life on the road after a crash. Help was called for, but the man, the father of the young boy behind the wheel, chose to save only his flesh and blood and left 5 others to die. This is a shocking story of total inhuman disregard for 5 young lives and of a heartless father who walked out unconcerned about the tragedy that his own son had caused.
On the 10th of September, Shiv Bhargava celebrated his 18th birthday. Two months later, the teenager lies in a hospital in Noida fighting to survive, battling extensive injuries, maybe even staring at complete loss of vision. The person to blame is Shiv's 17-year-old friend and the shockingly callous attitude of his father, a heartless man who only rescued his son from the accident spot. It was around 10 p.m. and among the injured were 2 girls. Yet the errant driver's father left the 5 injured teenagers to die.
It seems to be pretty inhuman and callous to leave 5 kids who are in various states of injury, who could be from, maybe just some superficial to somebody who could be dying, lying there on the road. I feel that it's highly callous.
On the night of November 12th, 6 teenagers, 4 boys and 2 girls went on a joyride. The driver, an inebriated 17-year-old DPS student who did not have a license. Things got out of hand when, despite repeated requests from his friends, the teenage driver refused to slow down. He lost control and rammed into a truck on the Delhi-Noida flyway slip road. Within minutes, the errant driver's father reached the accident spot and took away his injured son. Here is the most shocking part. This man left the other badly injured teenagers by the roadside and didn't even bother to save them, despite the accident being his own son's fault. It was 15 minutes later that the local BJP MLA Mahesh Sharma spotted the injured and rushed the victims to a nearby hospital.
I stopped, another 2-3 vehicles stopped there, and the young kids were there, so we just rescued them and shifted to the hospital. It is the bare minimum which is expected from a human being. What can be done?
18-year-old Shiv suffered multiple injuries to his face and eyes. The class 12th DPS student is still in the ICU undergoing reconstructive surgeries and is likely to lose vision and waste this academic year. So who is to be blamed for Shiv Bhargava's condition? Why hasn't the underage driver's father taken responsibility for what seems to have clearly been his own son's fault? Is he not to blame for leaving Shiv and 4 other teenagers to die by the roadside? Shiv's family is now demanding justice, asking that the person, the father and his 17-year-old son, be brought to book.
Also the fact that the police, if they were patrolling, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if they were patrolling, I think it's their duty and job to pick up injured people, but nothing of the kind happened.
Why did the errant driver's father allow his underage son to drive without a license? Was it too much for him to save the lives of other badly injured teenagers? Shouldn't he be held guilty for his criminally callous attitude?
Incident took place on 12th night, on early hours of 13th morning, when the relatives went to see the spot. There was no car, there was no sign of any accident taking place. My main question is that why no FIR was lodged?
It's been more than a week and the police so far has not arrested either the boy or the father. This also raises a bigger question for the father of the boy who was behind the wheels. He might have fulfilled his parental obligation by taking his boy, but was the life of somebody else's child any less? In Noida, with camera person Vinod, Ankit Tyagi for Headlines Today.
And I just can't get myself around to believing this. A young kid, smashes his car. There are friends in that car who are injured. He calls his dad. The dad comes to the accident site, just takes his kid and goes away, leaves the other friends to die on the road. Absolutely callous. I've got Sim Bhargav with me in the studio right now. He's Shiv Bhargav's father, the young boy who's very, very critical and in a hospital at this time. With us also is Dr. Mahesh Sharma. He's the chairman of Kailash Hospital, and he's the gentleman whose car was actually passing. He saw these young kids lying on the road. He stopped. Now, I don't know how many of us would actually do this when we're in a similar position, but he actually stopped his car to help these young kids. I want to go across to Mr. Bhargav first, and I'm very, very sorry for what happened to your child, Shiv, and we're really hoping that he recovers fully, and that I think is really, really important. Can you tell our viewers, Mr. Bhargav, what really happened? How is it that you found out about this accident, and how long after the accident was it that you found out?
Actually, my son had gone to his friend's house, and ostensibly he was supposed to be, I mean, they're all teenagers, and they were at one of the kids' houses in Mayur Vihar. It seems after that they just decided to go on this joyride, which was led by the boy who was driving, and he was a bit inebriated. And while coming back, I guess when they were on D&D, they possibly, the boy was driving very fast, and all of the kids were asking him to slow down. All the kids are 17 except for my son, who's 18 and 3 months, but he doesn't have a license, so I don't let him drive, and it goes without saying. But the child, even my son had some vodka, so he was throwing up, it seems. So, the seatbelt was off, and then this boy was asked to stop by one of the other children at the back, and in fact he said that he opened the door and he said, "I'm getting off if you're not." So that boy just stopped, and then when you come down the 15A D&D thing, there's a turn to come to Film City. So somewhere there was a dumper truck for garbage, and this boy went and hit it, possibly at 70, 80 or whatever. So the entire impact was taken by my son, who was sitting on the left hand side without a seat belt. The other boy had the seat belt, and he also had the steering wheel, so he escaped.
What is Shiv's condition at this time? What are the doctors?
Shiv is critical, and I mean, he was critical for the first 4 or 5 days. We've had 2 plastic surgeries, and now the major one yesterday lasted for about 6.5 hours. He's possibly also lost 4 of his teeth because he was wearing braces, so those are gone. And Dr. Sharma's hospital and their fantastic team of doctors have done a fantastic job. And goes without, his eyesight unfortunately is going to be at least 40% affected, if not more. Yeah. In fact, that's what I really feel sad about, because the kid is going to, I mean, he's 18, he's entering into life. If one of us this was to happen to one of us, we were, you're 60, 70, you've seen most of life. But anyway, also what we've been told is that, there can be corneal replacement. So we'll look ahead to that. And also the fact that once the swelling goes, the eyesight should be fine. So,
but what about the other boy? His name is Kanav Malhotra. He's the one who was on the wheels. He called his father. The father came. How much time did it take for the father to reach there?
I wouldn't know, because, well, see, it happened after 9:55. Now, at 10:11, I sent a text message to my son that, where are you, in a bit angry, saying, will you be back by 12? No reply. So, 10:44, when I called, somebody picked up the phone, who was at the hospital, and said, there's been this horrible accident and come. So, that's when I realized that, okay, there was this accident, and I mean, I have no clue. 2 minutes later, one of his friends, possibly one of the girls who was in the car, called and said, "Uncle, please rush to the hospital." So I did. And it seems that the boy in question who was driving never came to the hospital. He didn't need to.
So the father just drove off with his own son.
Yes. But you see, I mean, while you were talking about this, you did say that how many of us would stop. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've always noticed that on D&D or wherever, every time there's an accident with a cyclist or a scooter guy, I see a lot of people, including me, I have stopped. But I noticed that, yes, you're right. It's usually the lower class people who are on scooters, bikes, and people who possibly are not in Porsche big cars who really stop. The rest of them don't care.
I mean, I think you've
No,
got a
because they're
point
rich, they
there.
don't want to get into a mess.
Exactly.
Who'll take this young kid to the hospital? No,
Yeah.
but in this case it is different. There's one thing to stop if you see somebody else on the road. There's another when your own kid has been involved in an accident.
Yeah.
It's his friends who are in the car. It's
Involved,
your
yeah.
kid who caused the accident in the first place, and yet the father just drives off.
Yeah, it seems a little, I mean, crazy, but I mean, who's to say about, how people think? So, and possibly also, many accidents do happen and a lot of people die, but the repercussions, in the long term, because eyes are damaged and we've got to live with this for the rest of our lives. So in the sense that my son and I don't know, I mean, how we're going to be able to, I'm sure, like I was saying, and the doctors have done such a good job. So it'll come around, but it can have adverse impacts.
No, absolutely. We've got Dr. Mahesh Sharma with us, and I must first say that, we're very grateful that you actually stopped. Can you describe the circumstances to us under which you were driving on the road and you saw these kids with a badly smashed car lying on the side?
It was my routine drive to the hospital, and when I saw a car hit by a truck, the car mashed into the truck, and I saw that about 4 or 5 young children were there, out of which 1 or 2 girls were there, 4 young children were there, and a big cry and a sound came, so I just stopped. Few more vehicles stopped. I generally keep 1 more vehicle with me, and as soon as I stopped, few more cars stopped, then I saw that 3 of young children were bleeding badly. One was bleeding from the nose, other was bad. We're not sure whether he will survive there or not. Probably that was the Shiv Bhargav. And then it was my moral duty. It was a bare minimum which, as a human being, as a doctor, as a social activist, or as an MLA, I could do. I stopped. I requested my team members and other few car also stopped. They took the children out because this child was practically stuck into the car. They took them out and put them in the cars. I advised them some minimum directions, because sometimes in such circumstances we make the child lie flat, and whatever blood clot and all those things comes on the face, this goes and chokes the airway, which becomes the cause of death rather than anything else. So I gave direction to my team member, they just clean it and do it, like make him lie down on the side or on the back, and then shift to the hospital immediately. This was the instruction I passed to my team members, and in between 2, 3, 4 more cars stopped. Some of them were in the helping attitude. They just picked them, and in between I went to the hospital. There I met the father for the first time. Even I didn't know any of the children over there. I met them there itself for the first time. I think that's a bare minimum which, as a human being, I could do, or anybody should do it.
No, absolutely. But the fact is, the father, he came and rescued his own son and left everybody else to die.
Sometimes I cannot be a witness to that who was the father at the time. At that time situation was, there are young children, who is the father, who is not the father, just to shift them, to shift them to the nearest hospital, and the nearest hospital was Kailash Hospital, so I just started to shift them to the hospital.
It's very fortunate and coincidental that you happened to be on the road at that time, and you're also the chairman of the hospital where these kids are now being treated. How is Shiv doing?
Shiv is, I think his life risk, he's out of that life risk, but what amount of handicaps he'll get in eyes, and what amount of handicap neurologically and facial destruction, that will come to know later on only. The eyes part will be able to come to know only about 2 weeks later, that what percentage of vision he'll lose, and facial deformities, whatever, or the tooth, whatever, that we can be able to only assess after about 4
Give me
weeks.
a moment. I want to go across to my colleague Ankit Tyagi. He's been covering the story all through the day today, and in fact he went in with a hidden camera into the residence of Kanav Malhotra, the young boy who was on the wheels at that time. He tried to speak to their parents. They didn't come out on camera, but they've put out some sort of a statement. What are they saying, Ankit?
Well, Rahul, I went to their house and I wanted to get their version of what had happened that night. I wanted to ask them the straight question: why was the car given to this boy, and what was he allowed to drive? They refused. The statement that they have given is that the matter is sub judice. They would not like to comment as of now, and they also said that Kanav is under extreme trauma, and he's disturbed. So right now we won't like to speak. They also said that all the charges that the Bhargavs are making are false and fabricated.
In fact, we've got some reactions which you picked up on your camera. Let's see what the Malhotras are saying.
They are basically saying that Mr. Malhotra's son, who is underage, he was driving the car.
It was all false story. They people are trying to get money from us. You see, it is a personal thing. But when I'm talking to you,
Yeah.
when 1, 2, 3, 4 friends are going somewhere, if accident happens, आप गाड़ी चला रहे हो मुझे चोट लग गई, सपोज करो, या ये गाड़ी चला रहे हैं मुझे चोट लग गई, आपको चोट लग गई, किसका फॉल्ट है?
नहीं वो ठीक है.
Is there anybody fault?
No, accident हो गया, चोट लग गई is a different thing. But what the family is saying कि आपका एक्सीडेंट हुआ, चोट लग गई, वो किसी का फॉल्ट नहीं है, लेकिन कम से कम दे आर क्लेमिंग कि आप लोग गए और आपने अपने बच्चे को वहां से स्पॉट से आप लोग ले गए और बाकी सबको वहीं पे छोड़ दिया.
की सारी फैमिली वहां पर थी. सॉरी आई डोंट नो.
अंकित यादव.
उन्होंने सब प्लानिंग झूठ बोला.
सब झूठ बोला है. They want to extract money from everybody.
The Malhotras, they're saying that this is all bogus, it's all fabricated, that they were in an accident. How can their kid be to blame, Mr. Bhargav, for the accident?
So this is the first time I heard this theory about us wanting to extract any money from them. I mean, my family, friends and I are happily bearing the cost of my son's treatment. What the hell does that have to do with any money? And I just can't believe it. So it seems also stupid because when he's talking, I don't think he's himself convinced. He's trying to convince a reporter by making it sound like that. That does seem a little, fudge to me.
You know, he also makes the rather imbecile point that how can my son be to blame? They were all in a car, they had an accident, but that's not the point.
Yeah,
the point is not that the accident happened, the point is that he came there, picked up his son and went away.
Yeah, so I guess maybe he didn't want to answer that, or if he was asked, maybe he just didn't want to answer. And also, what is bizarre, frankly, is that what kind of parenting is this? What is the urgency to give a kid a car at 15? Why do we have a rule about 18 years old and, the fact that at 18 is when you get a driving license? Because that is why, do they think that everybody else's children will die and theirs are invincible? Because what if it had been their son and mine who had caused that, right? It could have been the other way down. So, who's to blame? So, what's the need to give the car? And I understand that this car, and that's what I've been told, and I believe that this car, I understand, was given to him on his 15th or 16th birthday.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Which is absolutely weird, yeah. It's, but I don't know, I think this is more of an Indian syndrome. Have you noticed how we all want to always push our children into nursery schools at 3 and 4? What? At the end of when you're finishing, when you're going to be 80, you're not going to get a Bharat Ratna that you finish school faster, right? Who cares? And in the long run, it doesn't matter. So what is this madness to, make people do things earlier? I just don't get it.
Ankit, you've also been speaking to the police officers who are investigating their case. What are they telling you? What action will be taken against Kanav Malhotra and his father? The father I'm particularly agitated about because, you can say that Kanav was in a state of shock. He didn't know what was happening after this accident. And Mr. Bhargav says he was also inebriated. But the father came there. Are the police planning to take any action against the Malhotras?
Well, Rahul, you will be shocked to know that so far whatever I've got from the police is just mere lip service. The SSP of the city, I've been trying to speak to him throughout the day. In fact, later in the day, he has just been avoiding my call, saying that he's busy in a meeting. But when I spoke to him, the sense that we got, he's straight away saying that they will not go ahead and arrest either Kanav or his father. He's saying that Kanav is a juvenile and they would not like to arrest him. But the question is that there is a juvenile board for that. Let them decide, let the court decide what has to be done with the child. And also, why not book the father? So it just seems that either the Noida police is under some sort of a pressure or they are deliberately trying to botch up on somebody's behest.
Do we know much about the Malhotras? Because
I don't know.
The police isn't acting. That throws up questions by itself.
Well, the only thing I know is that his father, Mr. Malhotra, is a property dealers. So I don't know whether that throws up any clues or any of these things. But yeah, one does know that, I mean, property dealers and police are often pretty friendly, right?
We're not going to allow that to happen. I promise you that, Mr. Bhargav. We will chase.
One thing, I mean, I just wanted to bring up, and like Dr. Sharma has so rightly pointed out, that anybody would do it, humanitarian, and the fact of the matter being that on humanitarian grounds you would do it. But what it also throws up the question is, what are they teaching the son? I mean, that you can do an accident, you can leave people dying, no regard for human life, and that friends don't matter, and that, basically running away, so you're starting your life with a lie. I mean, a 17-year-old is basically being told that doesn't matter, and, just run away from there and start, and while he's trying, and Mr. Sharma has proved the other side,
So unfortunate. Because what happened with young Shiv can actually happen
with anybody.
Any one of us. Anybody watching this broadcast can be in either of the two situations, either driving the car or lying on a street injured. But what a father has done is not correct. To leave the other children out to die on the street despite the fact that they were injured is not correct. Action needs to be taken against him, and the police can't just pop this off. Headlines today will track the story very, very closely. Dr. Sharma, thank you very much for doing what you did. It really, really does mean a lot, the fact that you stopped and helped
and it reinforces your belief in the fact that human beings will help human beings. Who else will do it? It really reinforces.
But not all of them, because there are others who drive the risk away.
Correct.
But it requires each one of us.
So at least it gives you confidence that there's still some left who will do it.
Asim Bhargav, you've been very brave, very candid, very forthright, and I just hope that young Shiv recovers, to the maximum extent possible. Dr. Sharma, for joining us, thank you very much. We pulled you out of some big meetings. Really appreciate you joining us. This is a story Headlines Today will continue to track very, very closely.